Hello everybody, I have another peg doll tutorial to share with you today. This is the inspiration I'm going to use for today's peg doll. I also have this book by Margaret Bloom that has so many great examples, and I'm really looking forward to getting into that book soon. And here are the little peg dolls that I'm going to be using. This is going to end up being a series of peg dolls that all are going to have little braids and little hats and wings. And if you want to see the rest of this series, you can click on the screen right now and it's going to take you to another channel for A Child's Dream, which is one of my favorite vendors, and I am so happy to be doing some videos over there for them. Okay, so the eyes and the mouth tend to be the most difficult for me right now. This is all still really new for me to be doing painted faces on my little wooden dolls. And what I found is less is more. So even if you make a mistake, just stop. Don't try to fix it. Just move on, because the more paint you put on, it just tends to not look that great. And now I'm going to give her some hair, and she's going to have some black hair with some braids. So I'm going to just start by sweeping the paintbrush across the front and kind of doing it like bangs kind of swept to the side. And then I'm just going to cover the rest of her hair with, or rest of the head rather, with some black paint. I also tried to make some little wispy hairs in the front, and then I can move on to her outfit, which is going to be red. And for all of these finger puppets, or rather these peg dolls in this series, the painted part is going to match the wings in some way. It'll just kind of be a slightly different shade. I'm using some Lamb's Pride yarn. This is worsted weight, so it's thinner than some of the other yarns that I've used for hair, which works really well for the braids. I'm only using one strand for each part of the braid, and that's going to work really well for this peg doll because she's so little and you just want the hair not to be quite so bulky. If you're working with the finger puppets, you can go with the bulky kind of yarn, and that tends to work really well. I'm tying it off with a little bit of twine. Previously I had used some metallic thread, but that didn't work long term because it slipped right off. And now I'm going to cut the braid and glue it onto the head. I find it easier to cut the braids into two pieces rather than to glue it on top of the head, just so that it's not so bulky. And you also want to make sure that your finger puppet, or rather, goodness, I'm really used to the finger puppet these days. You want to make sure that your peg doll dries completely after you have painted her, because otherwise the glue will not hold to your wooden doll. I was just showing you there the little template that I have for the hats. Find it easier just to work off of a pattern that I've made, since I'm going to be making so many of these, and that pattern will be available on my website at pepperandpine.com, and you can check the description box for a link to the document for that pattern. And for this doll, it's going to be the hat and then the upper wing and the lower wing for her fairy feathers, or furry wings rather. Alright, so I'm just gluing down the little hat, and you don't have to do this. You don't have to put hair either. You could just leave the peg doll painted. In fact, you can skip all of these next parts and just have your peg doll painted, and she looks really delightful just the way she is. But I did want to add some felt. So again, I had already cut out one wing, an upper and a lower, and I'm using that as a template to cut out the coordinating side, since there will be two wings. And I'm going to do again the same thing with the smaller piece, and I'm using a darker color red for this felt so that her hat and her wings are still red but slightly different shades. And now I can just add some hot glue to the back and affix the wings on. I find hot glue a little bit easier to use than other kinds of glues for this, plus it holds really well. Since it's going to have a lot of wear and tear with my kids, I want to make sure that everything is really well adhered. And there she is. It only took about 20 minutes to do, so I am improving the amount of time it takes me to make these, and I'm really looking forward to making the rest of the set. So please do check out the playlist for all of these little finger puppets. I'm sorry, peg dolls. I'll learn, I promise. All right, so here she is, a little close-up of her. And if you want to see the videos released before I release them on YouTube, you can find me on Instagram and see the links to those videos. Thanks for watching.